and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 282. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Saturn, we have housekeeping. First, I do want to kind of retroactively announce Sega Simber.
Whoa.
Which is our month in which we cover Sega stuff.
This is the second Sega Simber. I would say second annual, but we didn't do it last year.
And we forgot about it last year. Surely we did something Sega related last December that we... Oh, well. This is why we do Sega Simber, because otherwise we just don't cover them. So we did kind of start with Rez last week, and this week is not explicitly a Sega-related topic, so really doing a pretty shitty job this year, too.
We're really phoning it in. I'm sorry, Sega gods.
But we will we'll be doing, at least talking about Sega every episode through December, and there you go. And that's record dates December. Obviously, I think they'll release into January.
The ghost of Peter Moore will come and punish us for being bad at Sega Simber.
That's what's going to happen. Also, for our uncut listeners, we are going to be switching back to our every other week recording schedule. So to get caught up to where we can do that, next week we will be recording 2 episodes, and then after that, it'll be 2 episodes every 2 weeks. For regular listeners, it's still a show. It's still a show a week. You won't even know. But we were doing the weekly thing, and it was hell on earth. So
it was far more stressful than either of us expected it would be, really, than it had any reason to be, because we've done this before.
Yeah, we talked about it on After Hours, and we were like, I don't know how. It's the same amount of content. It's 1 episode per week instead of 2 episodes every 2 weeks, but for some reason, it's way more work. The recording is way nicer, but the work is way heavier.
I was trying to think about it, and I think it's just that during that time that we have been recording 2 episodes a night, which has been for several years now, hasn't it?
A couple of years at least.
So during that time, I think we have started doing more research and work towards the show than we used to. And so trying to condense that into a week has just been a little stressful.
Yeah, we end up clocking between 5 and 7 pages of notes for an episode, which I feel is way more than we used to.
Yeah, I remember not that long ago, we'd have like 2-3 pages and be like, oh, this is way too much. We're not going to cover all this.
And then we do.
Yeah, we do.
Anyway, and as always, you can use timestamps to jump to the episode topic at hand. This week, my week, I have been playing the Phantasy Star Online 2.
Nice. How is it?
I mean, getting into that one, it's very good.
So I was looking forward to it for nearly 10 years.
For years, I remember.
And I still have my PSO2 mouse pad that I use literally every day. It's right here.
And I was not looking forward to it. I was like, okay.
So I anxiously downloaded it when it was made available. And I played through the tutorial, and the whole time I was thinking, this is a little more complicated, but it makes sense. It's a sequel, and it's many years later, and I get they want to teach me all this. That's fine. And then as soon as I finished the tutorial, and it was like, collect some quests and go do a thing, I was like, nope, I'm checked out now. This is as far as I needed.
Now, I started playing it, and I don't even remember why. I was just like, hey, I've got Game Pass perks for Phantasy Star Online 2. Saturn likes Phantasy Star. Maybe I'll try it. And I had installed it before and played it. I did what you did. I got through the thing, and then it dumped me in the little hub, and I was like, okay, bye.
Right.
But I've stuck with it. I've probably clocked a couple dozen hours at this point. Honestly, I've been playing it like a good hour per morning.
Is that your way to celebrate Sega Simber?
That's part of my Sega Simber celebration. Nice. And I remember you saying that you were like, it seemed fine, but it didn't feel like Phantasy Star Online to me. And that I find fascinating. Now, I should preface this by saying I've only played a couple dozen hours of the original Phantasy Star.
I've played several hundred.
But it feels just identical to me.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. It's, okay, I go to the hub, I sell my gear, I go to the techer, I identify, I sell gear, I level some stuff up, I feed my mag, I do a quest, I come back, I do it again. It's the exact same.
That's the thing. I never did quests in the original. Like ever.
What did you just do the explorations?
Yeah. We would just go beat all the bosses, and then we'd turn it off for the day. And then the next day we'd come back and be like, all right, let's try to beat all the bosses.
I guess I should be clear. When I say do quests, I mean go on explorations.
No, I didn't do any of that. We just went down to the surface.
Yeah, that's what you do. You go down. They call it an exploration in this one.
Oh, okay.
And when you go down to the surface, it's like, hey, while you're there, there's these other subquests that you can complete in this zone. Do you want to take those? So you go, okay, I'm going to go on a forest exploration. I'm going to take all the forest quests. And then while I'm there, it's like, kill 10 of these things. And then you obviously do while you're there because there's a bajillion of them.
Yeah, we never
And then
did
you go back
anything
and you
like
turn
that.
in. Yeah. It's, I mean, the only real difference is they've added some subquests, it sounds like. Beyond that, it's go to a location, go through the zone to the boss, and then fight the boss, and then go back and do it again.
Because like in the original, there was the Hunter's Guild, where you could take quests that would send you down to the surface to go do a thing and then come back and turn it in. And yeah, I never did those. Like when we first got it, we did some online because that's where most of them were. They were online exclusive. Yeah. And then we were like, that's really, I don't like any of these. And they keep like bringing us back too quickly and not letting us see the entire forest or caves or whatever. So let's just ignore all that and just go down to the surface and finish an area and then come back. That's all we did.
Every quest I've ever done, except there is sometimes they do these limited quests where it's like every few hours they have a special quest that everyone goes and does at once. Yeah. Those ones are kind of weird and special, but they give you bonus XP and you get to play with like a ton of other people. So I do those because it's fun. You know, you get to go do the thing with all the other people.
Right.
But all the other quests, they have stuff where it's like, go do this thing, but it's still just like would teleport you down to the plane, you go through the zone, you fight the boss at the end, and you go back. Like it's still the same gameplay loop. To accomplish whatever the task is.
Yeah, I should probably give it another shot. I've just been
maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know, but I have gone through it enough that I understand all the currencies. Nice. I understand all of the subsystems and everything.
Do they still have meseta?
The money's still meseta. Nice. I've got a original PSO robot dude outfit on and a little Sega Saturn mag and like it's Phantasy Star. I shoot things with a machine gun. There's rappies everywhere.
Nice.
I play online like but it's been a lot of fun. I have not felt compelled to spend money on anything so far. Granted that maybe because Game Pass perks gave me a whole bunch of stuff.
That's fair.
I did spend some money on some cosmetics because I was enjoying the game. And when you make a good, enjoyable product, people will spend money on it.
Yeah.
Even if they don't have to. But I've been enjoying it. I think I'm going to stick with it.
Nice.
I'll probably keep doing... I get on and do daily quests. And the daily quests are usually... it's like today it was like drink a potion, eat a food item... Go do a quest and complete a daily order. The daily orders are the ones that it's like, oh, you're going to the forest. Hey, while you're there, do this thing. So really, it's just like take some items and go run the forest. And then I'm like, cool. I mean, today it was the coast, but that's my daily. Nice. But the tricky thing is once you complete your dailies, you're like, I did my daily quests. I got all my bonuses. And then they go, great. For completing your daily quests, we're going to give you a 24-hour 50% XP boost. And then you're like, oh. Well, I mean, it'd be dumb not to use that a little bit. So then I run some more stuff, and you know, that's the basic loop.
Yeah, I get that.
I do like that it's not. It is very much PSO in that it's an MMO, but it's just there's no world. It's like here's your hub, you teleport to zones.
Right.
There's no travel time anywhere. There's no big exploration. It's just like go to the thing, kill the thing, come back, sell your gear. Like that's the loop I'm after. I don't want to have to go to towns and then fly here and then get this travel point and whatever. Right. I just want to go shoot the things with my gun. But it's been enjoyable.
Nice.
I'm having a good time with it. I'm also getting back into Animal Crossing, trying to do that. Every day I try to wake up and I do my PSO dailies and then I get on to Animal Crossing. I'm trying to like build a loop. And it's been going pretty well. I did the Turkey Day stuff and that was fun. I also got a new Digimon. You may not know this, Saturn, although I don't know how you wouldn't. It's big news. The Digimon Pendulum Zs have come out in Japan. Okay. And I had one on pre-order and the proxy service I ordered from finally got it to me. And it's been fun. It's a Digimon.
I thought that you were just using like old Digimon.
Well, I mean, all of mine have come out in the last couple years.
Right, but I thought they were like retro reprint Digimon.
They're more like the virtual pet equivalent of a game compilation is kind of what the US release ones are.
See, I didn't know that they still kept making new ones. I thought these
I thought
this was like stopped. Tamagotchi, where they just kind of like, hey, remember this
They never
thing?
Stopped making Tamagotchi either.
Oh.
Tamagotchi are color screens now and backlight, and they have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and stuff. Tamagotchi are hardcore now.
Huh.
Digimon are still little LCD screens. I don't know what the fuck happened there. But no, they haven't stopped making them, at least in Japan. So these are the new ones that came out in Japan.
Did you or anyone you know ever have the Pocket Station for the PS1?
No, but I always wanted one, and they're exorbitantly expensive now.
Right. Yeah,
So
one of the guys I knew had one for, he had imported it for Final Fantasy VIII. And so he had the little Chocobo mini game on it, and he would be playing it in class all the time.
Yeah.
And that was the most boring fucking game. Like, holy shit. Like,
I can't imagine that the Pocket Station had anything that thrilling on it.
no, it was not. It's not great.
But yeah, that's my week. It's been PSO2 and Animal Crossing. Still kind of pecking away at Yakuza. I think I've fallen into a good groove with it, but I haven't booted it up in a couple days.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to sit down and power through the rest of it this weekend before Cyberpunk hits next week. Because that's going to probably just destroy my whole world. So I'm trying to get through Yakuza.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still kind of between games right now because
you're waiting on Cyberpunk, right?
no
First person Western RPG. I'm sure you can't wait.
sounds like the best. That's gonna be great. No, after several hundred hours of playing Trails all year, I've been wanting to just kind of not have a game to play right now for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so instead, I keep going back to either Cold Steel 4 or Trails to Azure just to play the little falling block minigame in it. A lot, like maybe almost 10 hours this week of it.
Too much, I think, is the phrase you're looking for. Too much for a minigame in another game.
Yes. And then I was like, if I'm just going to play falling block minigame anyway, I might as well just play more Tetris Effect, which I did. I finished the journey mode of Tetris Effect on Expert, and it's hard as nails. I can't get above B in the last two areas. I just can't. I've tried many, many times, and it's a struggle. It is ludicrous because it keeps jumping you up to speed 20, which I was not aware was a speed in the game.
Yeah.
And when you've been playing it, speed 16, 18, 20 for a little bit, when it temporarily drops you back down to 12, you're like, oh, this is a nice break. Even though that's like the fastest possible speed
it's still
in the
very
normal
fast,
difficulty. Yeah. But so yeah, I did play some of that. I also downloaded Dead Cells on Game Pass. Because I kept hearing excellent things about it, but I also kept hearing everybody say it's the Dark Souls of 2D side scrollers.
Yeah, it's like a 2D Dark Souls kind of affair.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of become its own like Souls
Right.
subgenre, the 2D version.
Yeah, I tried it out for a bit, and I can definitely see where people are saying that from, because there is that deliberate movement in all of your actions. And so it requires a little more holding back and reacting rather than just aggressively pushing forward, which I realize I don't like that at all. I like to hold the run button all the time and rush through games.
Now, I'll say I play those kinds of games like that. Yeah. I'm also very bad at them, though. So I don't know if you're supposed to. I assume like really good players can play it that way.
Sure.
But no, I'm the same way. I just want to hold forward and kill things, and I just do that. And then I'm like, oh, I died. I'll go back, and I do it again.
I might still pick away at it here and there, but it definitely didn't strike me as something that I wanted to go through. I also went ahead and got the new Sheer and the Wanderer, the new Mystery Dungeon game.
That's Saturn. That's a roguelike.
Yeah, but it's Mystery Dungeon.
Mystery Dungeon just means roguelike. That's all. It's just like different. It's a roguelike, but we made it in Japan.
It's different. Now I played I got the Steam version. It's a remake of the 5th game, I think. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know much about the Sheeran series. I've only played the spin-off Mystery Dungeons before this. And it's neat. It's fun. You can very clearly still feel the influence of the earliest games in the series, because the games that I've played the most of in the series are the Super NES Dragon Quest one and the PlayStation Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy Mystery Dungeons, and it still feels like those, which is nice. It's comforting. And also you can very clearly see the influence because Chunsoft, who makes it, also made the first 4 Dragon Quest games. And there's a lot of things that Dragon Quest stopped doing after those first 4 games, and they just kind of evolved the series. And it feels like Mystery Dungeon just like, oh, we'll adopt those. That's ours now. We're taking that.
We'll take those.
Yeah.
Thanks, goodbye.
So it is neat to also feel that influence after 30 years of game design and evolution to see how that's moved. So I'm probably going to pick away at that too. And then Dragon Quest XI did come out on Xbox, so I at least tried it. I'm not starting Dragon Quest XI again right now. I've already finished it 3 times. That's enough for today.
2 times too many, and I love the game.
The Xbox version seems good. Somehow Square Enix fucked up and forgot to activate the achievements. They still pop in game if you get one, but if you look at the achievement list, it says this game has no achievements.
Good job, Square Enix.
So something weird happened there. I don't know if it was Microsoft or Square Enix or what, but I'm sure they'll fix that with a patch or a back-end thing or whatever.
Well, in 6 months, they got other stuff. They're real busy. They're just this tiny little Japanese company. What do you expect them?
There's nothing they could do about that.
Let's do some news.
Yeah.
First up, Square Enix.
Speaking of,
here they are again. Announces a full remake of Saga Frontier coming to PS4, Switch, Steam, and mobile.
So I will admit that Saga Frontier is the game that made me realize I did not care for the Saga franchise.
Well, there you go.
It is a widely praised game, though. So
yeah,
I do recommend people at least look into it. Don't just take my word as doctrine.
If there's not a Square Enix tax on this one like so many of their other ports, then I might pick it up.
I bet it'll be $39. That's my guess.
Ooh, that's rich. That's rich for a game that I can already play a ROM of. They're proud of that.
They say it's a full remake, so I'm guessing $39.
Yeah. Spoon-bending magician Uri Geller has officially given Nintendo permission to print the Kadabra Pokemon trading card again.
Yay.
Kadabra can now appear on cards.
Yes.
Apparently, he's still allowed to appear in the anime and the games and stuff.
Right.
But whatever weird
the thing was, Uri Geller had a copyright on his spoon bending magic for print media, and the cards were considered print media,
right? Because they are printed,
right? And while I believe that it was a settlement that led to them not printing it all these years, and that it wasn't a proper ruling, it seemed like the judges were very strongly leaning in Mr. Geller's favor, because the Japanese name of Kadabra is Yungera, which is just straight up his name.
Right.
So I get where he is coming from. He was not like some jerk who was just trying to sit on a copyright to keep Nintendo from doing this.
I can also understand it from the perspective of like he probably had no fucking idea what this thing was when it came out, and he was like, it kind of is using my likeness, and they kind of did use my name. Yeah, I guess we should pursue this to maintain the copyright.
Yeah,
like I kind of get that.
Yeah.
Universal Studios Japan announces, well, there goes my voice. Japan! Universal Studios Japan announces February.
You ask my manager.
Would you like fries with that? Announces February 4th launch date for Super Nintendo World. God, if I just didn't say anything about it, Pablo could have edited it out.
If you hadn't said anything about it, I wouldn't have even noticed. It sounded fine on my end.
Japan for Super Nintendo World. So it's still happening.
Yes. And happening soon. That's barely 2 months away.
Yeah. Sega revealed an adorable Nomad prototype in a retrospective video that looks way better than what actually came out. I'm assuming cost cutting is what hit that prototype.
I'm sure. Well, also the prototype was Japanese, and the console never came out in Japan.
Yeah, it looks real cool though.
Yeah, it does look way cooler. It doesn't have the stupid slant that the released model has.
Microphone on the PS5 controller records audio anytime a trophy is unlocked. Why?
Sony.
Why, Sony?
Sony, why you gotta do that?
Stop recording us. Stop installing rootkits on our computers. Stop recording us. Right. Stop making us have death battles to pre-order your PlayStations. Just stop all of it.
Right.
Fans remaster the CDI Zelda games with cleaner sprites, widescreen visuals, and minor tweaks to game mechanics. Official links have already been pulled down to avoid Nintendo's wrath. Also probably the wrath of anyone that plays the games.
Right?
Yeah. Like I appreciate their efforts, but man,
yeah,
those are rough.
Yeah, I'm glad they were that excited about it, but ugh.
Nintendo Switch firmware updates adds ability to transfer videos and photos to a PC or a mobile device using a USB cable. Also opts users into sharing data via Google Analytics. So one thing I'm excited about, another thing I'm not excited about.
Yeah. Fortunately, you can opt yourself back out.
Can you? I need to go do that.
Yeah, you just have to go into the eShop and go into your profile settings, and you can turn it right off.
Yeah. Nintendo UK claims Switch Dock Bundle will no longer be made available for sale.
And nobody knows if this is just in the UK or if it was a miscommunication,
Right.
or if they're really going to discontinue the dock bundle.
Time will tell,
Yeah.
I guess. It's strange.
Maybe that means that we're getting closer to some sort of revised model.
Pro model, or the Switch XL, the new Switch XL Lite, whatever.
Yeah.
Sega announces a line of official Puyo Puyo character perfumes. In case you wanted to smell like a Puyo.
What's her name? Aurel? Is that the main character?
I have no idea. But it's definitely it's weird.
Get your carbuncle funk on.
There you go. Users are reporting good performance when emulating PS2 on the Xbox Series X. This thing seems to be very good at emulating, which it should be. It has a shitload of power in it.
Well, also the Series S, which is the weaker model, is also giving good performance on a PS2. So
the Series S is still a beefy machine by by emulation standards. Anyway, still very beefy.
But for something that's $299 and you can get it in your house, that ain't bad. That's pretty reasonable.
Beta PS1 port of Superman 64 found in the wild and made available.
Oh boy.
Which, it's never the good prototypes, is it? It's always the Superman 64s of the world.
I don't know. We got Bioforce Ape. That was a game.
Mobile free-to-play Breath of the Wild clone Genshin Impact generated nearly $400 million in sales in its first 2 months. This game is blown up in a lot of places.
Yeah. I've been hearing about some predatory monetization, and also several people claiming that they were charged for purchases they didn't make in game and are having to jump through some hoops getting refunds. So
that's not fun.
Yeah.
Google and Konami have made Super Bomberman R Online free to play via Stadia with or without a pro subscription, and it's fun. It's a good game. You should go play it for free. It's great for free.
Yeah, for free. It's amazing. If you paid the $10 for it, it's Bomberman.
I used a Stadia credit for it, so I feel semi-ripped off. I feel ripped off that they took a ticket from me that I didn't know I had or wanted, and it was worth nothing to me before then.
Yeah.
Billy Mitchell watch. A new cross complaint in Twin Galaxies case accuses Billy Mitchell and Walter Day of a, quote, decades-long pattern of abuse, impropriety, nepotism, and fraud.
Damn.
Man, they said it better than I could. I just keep calling Billy an asshole.
Right.
I think we've talked about it before, and I'm not blown away to hear that Walter Day was in on some of his shenanigans.
Right.
But it's unfortunate.
Still
I mean, like,
disappointing.
good. Anyone that was lumped into that bullshit, yes, please take them to court. But it's unfortunate to hear. In private meetings with investors, Sony revealed that players are spending more time playing offline single-player games than online games.
Nice.
Shock.
Right.
Awe. People like online or single-player games. Who would have ever guessed?
Not EA 10 years ago.
Definitely not. Skunk Ape Studios is remastering Telltale's Sam & Max Save the World.
Neat.
So all you point-and-click adventure fans can be excited about that one.
Right.
Microsoft acquires online tournament organizer Smash.gg. Good, because Smash is great, and someone needed to acquire them. So it's good. It's good stuff.
I know nothing about that site, so I'm glad that they're getting some investment.
Oscar Isaac, who is an actor we know. Saturn had to ask before the show. He was like, do we know this guy?
Yeah,
and I was like,
I
yes,
still don't know this guy. After
we definitely know this guy, Saturn.
I'm glad you know this guy, because I did not. I looked through his filmography, and I don't think I've seen anything.
Is set to play Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid, the movie, which I don't know if I'm excited about, because they already made it. It was called Escape from New York. It existed. And they made another one, Escape from L.A. You can watch both of the Metal Gear movies. But I guess if you want to watch a new one, they're making a new one.
Well, which one has the lolly lule low?
Hopefully none of them. And without further ado, let's get into our topic at hand. This week we are talking game compilations, which you may recognize as those things what have lots of games on them. We are going to be excluding system compilations, things like Atari Collection and Television Collection, that sort of thing, because they're really just stacks of games from certain systems that company happen to have the rights for in most cases.
And despite that, I almost added Genesis Collection to this list like 4 times, and then had to be like, no, that's still no.
And then I kept going, no, you can't stop. And they're also, it's just its own category. There are far too many of them to lump in here. This is also not a comprehensive listing of video game compilations. It's just kind of a basic idea of some we like, some we didn't like, what we look for, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We did have some listener feedback. First up is Elk Neodafs, who writes in, to me, video game compilations are almost always an automatic buy. I mean, here's a collection of several video games for the price of one video game. There might be some losers in the bunch, but that's true for any collection of things. Just look at your Whitman's sampler. Nobody's touching that raspberry cream. I am. I like everything in a Whitman's sampler. I'm that guy.
Oh, you're the one.
I'm the one that goes in and I find the ones that everyone bit the end off of and then realized it was gross, and I eat those ones.
Gross.
Even with a few bad apples in the bunch, compilations are almost always worth a look, and I take an obstinate pleasure in using my state-of-the-art electronics to render Atari games. Stolen Soul 12345 says, for me, compilations have always been a great value. Growing up with the SNES, we received one of the best compilations, Super Mario All-Stars, and being a huge Nintendo fan as a kid and into my teens, I was excited to see the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition.
All right.
Then I bought the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, which had terrible controls that were an issue, but it did let me play the arcade games, so that was nice. All in all, compilations are a fantastic way for gamers to either revisit old favorites or players to enjoy games they've missed. Rygar Starkong says, I've been a fan of game compilations for a long time. Allow me, if you will, to hit the way the fuck back button and tell you about the OG game compilations that used to appear for computers like the Commodore 64. Not only were there a metric shit ton of compilations from publishers like Ocean, Firebird, US Gold, and Cosme,
and Elite,
but there were also compilations of public domain games that were absolutely insane. We're talking 10 to 20 floppy disks full of games that ranged from awesome to barely playable. But oh man, what an adventure it was going through those compilations and seeing what would pop up.
We still saw that up through the DOS era too.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing some of those. I never had the full collections, but it'd be like discs 5 out of 12 that I'd have, and it would have like one crappy game, and I'd be like, this sucks. TamChin87 writes in, back when I was a wee lad, I would look in awe at my rich neighbor as he opened up his second pack of batteries and put them into his brand new Sega Game Gear.
They'd last 8 minutes.
My tiny mind was blown away. You could play Sonic on the go. Maybe there was some other games, but my neighbor wasn't that rich. On my trusty GameCube, I got the Sonic Gems collection. I was excited to finally play all those amazing Sonic games. My older mind was blown away. I'm so happy I never sunk a single coin into buying a Game Gear. The physics were off, the music was odd, and everything just felt bad. No doubt this was impressive tech, but going back to it without the nostalgia was hard.
Yeah.
And finally, CC Thunder 25 writes in, my first experience with compilations was the gold box for the Amiga. I was completely floored that I had 12 sprawling games across 4 franchises at my fingertips. The added bonus was that I would get introduced to games I was either unaware of or had not had the opportunity to play. My hats off to Sega in particular, as they have released some of the best compilations, which we will be covering many of.
Yes.
Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection alone introduced me to some of my favorite games of the platform, like Phantasy Star or Gain Ground. We will not be covering the Genesis Collection as per our previously stated scope, but we will cover others. Let's talk about kind of what we look for or at in compilations.
First, the name's Sega.
Yeah. Usually if Sega's on it. You know, honestly, I can't think of a bad Sega compilation. There are some that have been like lackluster or like, oh, this didn't have much on it or the price was high and it's just a couple games. But I can't think of any that I'm like, oh, this was a trash collection. Don't buy that.
That's because you didn't buy the Sonic collection for Windows 98.
Jesus Christ. Neither did anyone else in America. Just you, Saturn.
No, I didn't buy it. I pirated it.
So let's talk accuracy.
Yes.
Obviously, accuracy is very important because a lot of times you're dealing with modern televisions, modern systems, modern controllers, and you have to take into account that there's going to be a little bit of lag already introduced into a ROM.
Yeah,
and it can be significantly more so if it's an inaccurate port.
Right, and even on the older consoles that the pre-HD consoles, when we saw compilations there, they still had to adapt for usually a new controller or controller layout from what the original console was.
Yeah, or more importantly, resolution. Oftentimes, resolution would rear its ugly head, and it would give you weird results.
Yeah, you'd get shimmers or especially like in the PS2 era, we saw a lot of arcade compilations, but the screen resolution was not correct for a lot of those vertically aligned arcade games.
Yeah. And
so some things looked odd and squished, even if they played fine.
And next up we have extras. So this is your bonus content that are not just games, or sometimes maybe it's a game thrown in that's not within the scope of this collection that you see a lot of the time, where it's like, hey, here's these, here's all the Mega Man games, and then Mega Man Soccer 2.
Nobody's ever thrown in Mega Man Soccer ever.
I wish they would.
No, you don't.
But you see a lot of things added in. A lot of times it's art. You see in more recent years a lot of developer interviews, concept art galleries, all kinds of things like that.
Definitely.
And they really can add to the experience. And a lot of times compilations end up being places where companies kind of break news. Sometimes when a compilation comes out, you see headlines from it because they put things in there that we didn't know about the game.
Right.
So sometimes if you're a big fan of whatever's in a compilation, you can legitimately find things that you didn't know before. And sometimes is exciting.
And sometimes they also just add new content to the games. Like there'll be an extra level, or there'll be an extra playable character, or if it's on a newer controller with more buttons, they might add some new control that makes it easier to play. So there's all kinds of bonus things that they add in there.
Next up is presentation, which is this is one of the superficial things, but good presentation can really make a good compilation, not just because it is a UI you're going to be spending a lot of time flipping around in, because due to the nature of a game compilation, you spend more time in the menus than you would in any other game, probably tweaking your display options and picking different games.
Sure.
So having a good UI that is presented well, or in a way that can often evoke nostalgia or whatever, is good. That's a big thing. Sometimes they take it too far with the like the Genesis collection on Nintendo Switch, where you have to be in a little virtual bedroom and move around in there like you're a tiny little virtual Sega kid in the 90s.
But Justin, on Steam, it supports VR.
Yep, and it's just as bad there. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and we mentioned when we were talking about the Turbo Mini a few months ago now that the presentation of the menus on there is enough to add to the experience quite a bit, and that's
absolutely
the same kind of thing we see here.
Absolutely, and it's sometimes really like sterile or stoic menus. That what a weird sentence. Stoic menus. They can really they can really detract from collections. Like the Konami Classics collections that came out recently, like they were by all accounts decent collections, but the menus just sucked. It looked like someone made them in Microsoft Word.
They updated them now. They look like they're from PowerPoint.
There you go. And then finally, selection. Obviously, we look at what games are in the collection. Whether or not
eventually,
we already have them,
once we've looked at all that other stuff, then we pay attention to what's actually in there.
Right. Obviously, that's the last thing we look at is the game selection. But it's an important factor.
This is an excellent selection with just a phenomenal menu. Unfortunately, it's all Atari porn games.
A lot of times you see collections that seem great, but they're missing some key titles. Right. Sonic 3, Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
It's on the PC version.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's an important thing to take into account. And
I really hated a couple generations ago when a lot of these compilations would come out in multiple volumes. You would see that a couple of key games would be missing in a compilation, and you'd think, oh man, I can't believe they forgot that. And then the next volume would come out and it would have those, but then it would be missing something else. And then you'd realize what those assholes had been doing this whole time.
So those are kind of the vectors across which we're going to be talking about some compilations. And I want to start with one of my most beloved compilations that I feel like not enough people talk about. And I feel like anytime I talk about the Genesis, I bring it up because I'm like, what about the Genesis 6-pack?
This is the beginning of our Sega Simber section.
We have a whole Sega Simber section in our game collections here. The Genesis 6-pack came out in 1995 and 1996, depending on your territory. It was obviously put out by Sega. It included, and we're not going to list every game in every collection here, but there's only 6 here, so I'm going to list them. It had Sonic 1, Golden Axe 1, Columns 1, Revenge of Shinobi, Streets of Rage 1, and Super Hang-On.
Yeah.
And this
all on one cartridge, which was really impressive at the time.
It was. That's very impressive. Also, I had this and then Sonic 2 and 3 and Knuckles. That was my entire Genesis collection for years.
Which is still a pretty decent set, honestly.
It is. And the 6-pack
almost 10 games.
It was and still is cheap. You could pick up a 6-pack, hand it to a kid with a Genesis, and be like, you've got tons of entertainment, good high quality games. These are all very good games.
Also, they set the header on the ROM for the 6-pack so that the system thinks that you're playing Sonic 1. So if you plug it into Sonic and Knuckles, it'll still give you access to all the Blue Spheres levels that Sonic 1 would have access to.
This was it came with a 67-page manual in the box, which was just the manual for every game all smushed together. And a similar collection was also released as a pack-in for the Sega CD in 1992, but without Super Hang-On or Sonic, but it included no manual and a minimal menu.
Came in a cardboard sleeve.
Some games were CD enhanced musically. And the same set was also re-released as a console pack-in 94 with Super Monaco GP added to the other 4 games. I think the 6-pack is, if you're like, hey, I want to get into Genesis collecting, like, get a 6-pack, get Sonic 2 and 3, and then get Sonic and Knuckles. And there you go. That's a ton of awesome Genesis games. I didn't even know they made Streets of Rage 2 for years. And for years after I played Streets of Rage 2, I preferred Streets of Rage 1.
Oh, you're the one.
Because of this game.
Yeah.
And it was not until the 3DS Classics version of Hang On that I had a different version of Super Hang On that I preferred more than the version in the 6-pack.
Oh, nice.
Was just
I never encountered the 6-pack until probably 10 years after the console was discontinued. And at that point I was like, I think I already have any of those games that I want.
Well, I didn't get my Genesis until the 2000s, so it was like I really don't remember who bought it or where it came from, but I know based on where it was and who owned it that it was just like, hey, I got this thing at a garage sale for $20 with this stuff,
nice.
You know. That brings us to Sega Ages, which is kind of its own. It could be its own episode, so I'm gonna try to condense it down. The Sega Ages line has been released multiple times across multiple platforms. It started on the Sega Saturn. These were put out by M2. And the Saturn in Japan saw 12 different volumes of Sega Ages games from 1996 through 1998.
of which we got one.
Europe and North America saw Sega Ages Volume 1. Yeah, just the one, which featured Outrun, Space Harrier, and Afterburner 2. Right. And the European release was handled by Sega. North American release was handled by Working Designs under their Spaz label, which is actually the name of that label. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. It was printed boldly on the front of the box, so
I've played a bunch of these and they're fine. Yeah. They're good for what they were. They're good for the era. Mm-hmm. They're not stellar, and they don't really include a lot of games for having to buy a whole Saturn game.
And honestly, they don't hold up well compared to later compilations of those same titles.
Such as the Sega Ages 2500 series, which was released on the PS2. It was called the 2500 because they cost 2,500 yen.
Right.
There were 30...
They would have come out in America, but they didn't think that they'd be able to convince us to pay $2,500 for them. So.
Right. So they were like, we can't do that. I like to imagine that they did the exact conversion and it was like some number with like a decimal, and they were like, well, that doesn't sound good. Let's not release it. It's like 2473, and they were like, that doesn't make sense. Forget it. Forget the whole thing. It was 33 volumes released in Japan only. Mm-hmm. All of them, again, costing 2,500 yen. And the releases spanned, and this is on PS2, remember, from 2004 through 2008.
Yeah.
A few of them came out in Western markets as Sega Classic Collection. Mm-hmm. They put a bunch of them together. In each title, usually focused on a single series. So they would have the game, whatever it is, Outrun. And then they would have a couple different versions, and then often prototype versions of games would be included in the 2500 series.
Some of the Sega Ages versions only had one game on there, but it would be a completely remade version and also the original version.
Yeah.
So it was weird.
It was really cool. Yeah. And then you got the Sega Ages Online, also known as the Sega Vintage Collection, which was on Xbox 360 and PS3 on the digital marketplaces, which were just kind of various collections released mostly in Japan, but some came out worldwide.
Right. Yeah, that's how I got the Monster World games.
Yeah, they weren't amazing, but they weren't bad. They were okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
And then that brings you to the most recent Sega Ages line, which is on the Nintendo Switch, which I own, I think, between 5 and 7 of.
And I kept waiting for a collection. Compilations, or are these just all standalones?
They're all standalones.
Okay.
And they are great. They are great versions. They include online leaderboards. They've added full online play to some of them. Like Virtua Racing has full online play. I hear it's not amazing, but it has it.
Yeah.
They've all got leaderboards. They got rewind features. Some of them have things you can unlock. They have lots and lots of different settings. Some of the harder games like Thunder Force 4 includes what they called a kids mode. I still can't beat it on kids mode, so it's kind of demeaning. But they include, different modes and different ways to play that make them really, really, I don't want to say definitive, because I don't know that they are the definitive version of each game across the board. But for several of them, they are often considered the definitive version.
I'm hoping that at some point they do release a compilation of these.
That'd be nice.
Unfortunately, until then, they're
great. They go on sale regularly. I've been playing Herzog's Vi on there. I've been playing Virtua Racing, Sonic 2, Fantasy Zone. They've got a couple Puyos on there. They're just, every one that I've got is really great presentation, great menus. Lots of different options, fully remappable controls, which is a big deal.
Right.
Not a lot of console games have remappable controls in 2020 because they hate that you have options, I guess. I don't know why. I can't figure it out. And that brings us to the Sega 3D Classics Collection, which came out in 2015 Japan, 2016 North America, and PAL. Which included a huge amount of options for each game and a lot of different games. It was a Fantasy Zone, you had Power Drift, you had Afterburner 2, you had Altered Beast on there, you had some others that I'm forgetting.
It came with stickers too.
It came with stickers. It was an awesome collection, and it was released as a limited collection in North America and also came out with each game separately on the 3DS eShop.
Right.
Now, in Japan, there were 2 other 3D classics released. There was Sega 3D Fukoku Archives, which came out before the 3D Classics collection. And then there was Sega 3D Fukoku Archives 2, which was the one we got. It's just the same as the 3D Classics collection. And then there was Sega 3D Fukoku Archives 3. And between the three of them, it's a total of 29 games with, again, tons and tons of settings, like really cool stuff like Space Harrier lets you play in arcade mode, where it'll actually, when you move the stick left and right, you can kind of see the edges of the big Space Harrier arcade machine, the big one that moved, and it would like tilt the whole screen left and right with it. And they added in the sound of the actual monitor clacking when it moved back and forth.
Nice.
Like they were just very, very well done. For my money, the 3D Classics versions are still the definitive versions of all of these games. And additionally, they included 3D. They actually reprogrammed all of these games to work in full 3D mode.
And they look great.
You could set it to pop in or pop out, and it's real hard-edged 2D graphics with like this pop-up book style. It's amazing.
Yeah, and Arika had done the same for several NES games, but I honestly like the way that Sega did it a little bit better than on those NES 3D Classics. It's the
only game that I turned 3D on my 3DS, because it looks so cool.
Oh,
it's so cool. Especially for games like Power Drift or Outrun or Space Harrier, anything where you're like moving forward in a fake 3D space.
Well, clearly, it's because Sega had more experience developing in 3D from making that 3D headset. On the Master System.
Yeah. But the 3D Classics collection is fantastic. Absolutely, and if you can either download or get your hands on the 2 Japanese versions, they're also very good and include some really great games. I never would have discovered Power Drift 2 if not for the 3D Classics collection. And Power Drift 2 is fucking fun. It is so much fun.
Nice.
And you have the Sonic's the 6th generation collections for Sonic, which I've not played any of these.
Really? The GameCube or PS2 versions?
Yeah, no. So you had, in the early 2000s, that's when I got my Genesis, so I didn't play any of the collections.
Yeah, you had Mega Collection, which was the first big one, and it had all the main series Sonic games. And it's a fine collection. It does its job. It has decent menus and good emulation and everything. Then you had the Sonic Gems collection, which a big selling point for it at the time was, you can finally play all the Game Gear and Master System Sonic games again on the big screen. And then everybody realized nobody wanted that. But it also had Sonic CD, which did make it a little more worthwhile. I was always disappointed because between them, the one that had Sonic 3D Blast, they again chose the Genesis version and not the Saturn version. I'm always angry about that, but they always do it. But no, they're decent collections. It gets you pretty much all of the Sonic games up until that point, aside from the Adventure series. So at the time, it was definitely a worthwhile purchase.
Yeah. Tell me about the Microsoft Entertainment Packs, because the only one I owned was on Game Boy Color.
That was a port of one of the Windows Entertainment Packs. There was.
Oh man, it's boring.
They're pretty boring. There's like 4 or 5 of them. Most of them were just really bland things from your card games like Hearts or Spades or whatever. Minesweeper was initially introduced in one of these entertainment packs. Ski Free was initially introduced in one of them.
Was it?
Jazzball was
surely
originally
mine
introduced.
Doesn't have Jazzball. I played a lot of.
Now those games were also eventually added to enhanced versions of Windows 95 and Windows 98. But in the Windows 3 era, none of that came with Windows. FreeCell was originally an entertainment pack. And one of the entertainment packs even had a port of Tetris for Windows. Microsoft really thought that it was going to be their big way to break into the video game world, and it absolutely was not. But it was a thing that they kept putting out for 2, 3, 4 years there. They were putting out, I want to say there's half a dozen of them total. And at the time, it was a good way to get a lot of quick, basic, mindless games on your Windows 3 PC, but I don't really recommend going back to them. I tried to install them on my DOSBox machine recently just to like relive that era, and I was like, oh god, these are so old. I wish I had a right mouse button right now.
But for the time, they were a big deal.
Yeah, they were also $30 each.
Whoa,
Yeah.
man. Maybe they should have gone in the later category of this show, which is collections that weren't that great.
No, well, at the time they were very highly regarded. It's just they have aged very poorly.
We have Super Mario All-Stars, which we talked about at length on our,
our
Mario 3D collection
All-Stars
episode. So go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
Bottom line is it's great. It's a great collection. The only real
done.
complaint is that the physics for Mario 1 are kind of different. So if you're really used to that, it's a little weird to get used to. But beyond that, stellar collection.
Excellent. Yeah.
Let's talk Dragon Quest 1 and 2 on the Game Boy Color and Super Famicom.
Yes. So if anybody has ever tried the Japanese version of Dragon Quest 1 on Famicom, it's really old. The characters can't turn. They always face the screen, no matter which direction they're walking. Also, when you say you want to talk to something, you're given a submenu to choose which direction you want to talk, because again, you can't turn. It's just a very old game. So when they remade it for Super Famicom, obviously that was fixed. But also, for the first time in the franchise, they added a talk/interact button. So you no longer had to open a menu and then choose talk just to talk to somebody. You just walk up to them and hit
It's the future!
A, right? And then there was also obviously enhanced graphics for the Super NES. They redesigned all the dungeons and maps so that they would look more like the ones later in the series, where it wasn't just a single tile passageway through everything. It was bigger and more elaborate.
Right.
They also added back in all of the story content that had been added to the US version of Dragon Quest II into the Japanese version. So that was the first time they got to see the prologue for Dragon Quest II.
Oh.
And all of that was then ported down to the Game Boy Color several years later. So they took all those enhancements they added to the Super Nintendo version, and they just squished it back down into an 8-bit mode. And they added even more intro cinematics that were not in the original games. So of the ports, I would say for a long time, the Game Boy Color collection of Dragon Quest 1 and 2 was the best way to play them. The current mobile/Switch versions might have a leg up on them, but they're
just not as charming.
Yeah, there's a lot of charm in that 8-bit polish.
Yeah. Ys 1 and 2 has been released on Turbo CD, DS, PSP, PC, basically everything.
Yeah, anything you would want to play it on.
And as you imagine, it's both games on Turbo CD. It's Ys 1 and 2.
Right.
But they play into each other. You can carry over your XP from Ys 1 into Ys 2. They raise the level cap a little bit.
Yep.
The DS, PSP, and PC collections separates the games back out, but includes newer control schemes, enhanced graphics and music, and nice new menus.
Yeah.
And I think this one's available, like not just on PC, but on GOG, I believe.
Yes, it is on GOG and Steam, and I think that's all that it's available on currently.
And it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great port.
Now you have Final Fantasy 1 and 2 on NES, PS1, and GBA. I would probably pick the GBA port out of those three.
Oh, man.
If we're talking collections.
Right.
I didn't even know they had a Famicom collection.
Yeah, it released in 1994.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's the same year the PlayStation came out.
Now, wait, what is that? That's 11 years. Famicom launched in 83 in Japan?
That's correct.
11 years into the system.
And it's just a cart that has a basic menu where you choose one or two, and then it loads the ROM. That's it. There's no other bonuses. But the fact that got them both on one cart's pretty impressive.
The PS1 collection was there as well. It had some newer graphics and easy mode. Wasn't made available in Japan, where the two games were sold separately.
Yeah.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah. But over here we got the collection, which was nice.
Yeah, you have Dawn of Souls, which is probably the preferred of these three collections.
Yes.
And as we said on that episode, I think still my preferred way to play either of those games.
Yeah, I say either GBA or PSP, but PSP wasn't a collection. They made you buy those separately for $40.
It was insanely expensive.
Right.
You have Nintendo Puzzle Collection, which was on GameCube. It was Japan only, but for a while you could get your hands on it. I don't know if it's still relatively affordable.
They also ported it to Game Boy Advance and just took away Yoshi's Cookie, but it was just paneled upon in Dr. Mario.
Well, who cares about Yoshi's Cookie?
Yeah, really.
It's but yeah, it's paneled upon Yoshi's Cookie, Dr. Mario, remade for GameCube. They look great. They play great.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great collection.
Absolutely.
You have Kirby's Dream Collection on the Wii, which, in stark contrast to the Mario All-Stars collection on the Wii, is a great collection on the Wii, which includes Game Boy, NES, and SNES Kirby games. It includes episodes of the cartoon. It includes a big manual. Yep. It includes lots of extra features and menus, and it's cute. And it's just a wonderful collection.
It's also the only official Game Boy Virtual Console ever released on the Wii.
It's great. It's if you can still get it affordably, get it. I don't think you can, but if you can, do it. You have Gradius Collection on PSP, which is fantastic. Yeah. It's Gradius 1 through 4 with Gaiden on one UMD. You can play the arcade versions or the new widescreen mode, and they all play great. They look great. They're presented well. It's a fantastic.
And in Japan, there was also a Salamander collection, which we did not get.
I think I downloaded that and then didn't play it.
Right.
And then you have the PS1 and Saturn Street Fighter collections, which are near arcade perfect ports of the Street Fighter 2 series.
Yeah, the Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, all of that all bundled together.
Yeah, some of them have the alpha games. I believe the Saturn one was released in multiple discs.
Yes,
I assume the PS1 was as well, was it? Yeah, so, that's the one I've not played.
Yeah, so you had Collection 1 and Collection 2, and I want to say Collection 1 was Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Super Street Fighter 2, and Collection 2 was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Street Fighter Alpha 2, but they also had some of the other modes in there. But it was good. They were good conversions, and they had some good console-centric features.
Yeah, and that was the when we did our Street Fighter 2 episode, I played the Saturn version of it because it was hailed as, if you're going to play a home port, play this one. It's the best one.
It's excellent. It still holds up.
Let's fire through Capcom's 6th generation collections. These are the Capcom collections released on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. And I'm just going to say the name of the collection, and you're just going to tell us about it real quick.
Okay.
Street Fighter Alpha Anthology.
So you had Alpha 1, 2, 2 Gold, and 3, and for some reason Super Gym Fighter Mini Mix, all in one disc. And they were good arcade emulations, but it was just the arcade versions. No console specific characters for Alpha 3, minimal difficulty settings, just whatever was on the dip switches on the machine. So they played fine, but it felt a little lacking for a console release.
Tell me about Mega Man Anniversary Collection on PS2, and while you're at it, Mega Man X Collection also on PS2. But Saturn, why does it say on PS2 when these also came out on GameCube?
We'll get to that. So for Mega Man Anniversary, you had Mega Man 1 through 8 on one disc. You also had the 2 arcade Mega Man games. And for me, the most important part was that Mega Man 1 through 6 were based on the Japanese exclusive PS1 remasters that in Japan were all sold separately on PS1. I had imported a bunch of them when they dropped down to 15 apiece. And they all played basically like the NES games, but with some extra menus to do save states and to save your current progress. But they also had these little on-screen kind of tutorial things where like Beat would show up or a little creature would show up and like point you to the direction you're supposed to go or point you towards where you can get an E-Tank or something. Yeah. And it was just a neat little bonus that they've not put on any version since then. So it was nice that was there. Also, you could use L and R to switch between weapons, which was not in the original games.
And
obviously.
Have they included the arcade Mega Man games in any other collection?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe that was the most recent time they've re-released the arcade games.
Yeah. Mega Man X Collection.
Yeah. So you had X 1 through 6 on the disc, as well as for some reason Mega Man Battle and Chase. Which I believe that was the only time.
That's a bonus.
Yeah, I believe that was the only time Battle and Chase was released in North America. I want to say it got released in Europe separately, but I don't want to say definitively. And then both of those collections had some bonus art and soundtracks. The Mega Man Anniversary Collection had some clips from the old Rankin and Bass cartoon. So it was.
I used to wake up at 5 a.m. to watch that.
Yeah, me too.
And it was terrible.
He was fighting robots. But yeah, they were fine on PS2. They played fine. It was like, it wasn't absolutely stellar, but
I did like the menu system in that one, where it was Mega Man running around the little corridors. That's the first time I remember thinking the presentation was actually adding to the game compilation.
Right. And it all used Mega Man 8 graphics to do so, which was nice.
Yeah.
If I had to make any complaint about the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, it's that they left out Mega Man and Bass for some reason.
Yeah, that is a weird one.
Yeah.
You have the Capcom 8th Generation Collections, which are Switch, PS4, Xbox One, the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, which is great collection, lots of extras, lots of art. It's the arcade ROMs.
It's weird that there are only certain games you can play online, though.
That is weird. I also would have liked to have seen some of the console exclusive stuff, because they're just straight the arcade ROMs.
Right.
And even on the easiest difficulty, the arcade ROMs are just busted
Brutal.
hard.
Yeah.
You also have Mega Man Legacy 1 and 2, X Legacy 1 and 2, and Z/ZX Collection, all of which are really good versions. They're very competent. Some of them I really would like to see maybe some extra bonus content, but they are hailed as archival quality ports of basically most of the Mega Man games. They don't include the arcade games, Battle and Chase. They don't include some of the earlier bonus games that were included that I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah. And also, I'd mentioned on a previous episode, Legacy Collection 1 has all kinds of early art that we haven't seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't have those bonus features from the PS1 games, which I'm very sad about.
That's what you're missing. Yeah. You have a bunch of 7th Generation collections, which are basically HD remasters. The God of War trilogy, Devil May Cry games have been redone in HD. Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3
just
have
2
been.
and 3.
Pardon me. Yeah, 2 and 3. The first one was even on PS2 when they released Metal Gear Solid. In the 3-game box set, they just put a PS1 game and a PS2 case.
Good.
But they
job,
all exist,
Konami.
and they all seem competent enough.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of them seem to include a lot in the way of really bonuses. The big sell of those compilations is, look, now it's in HD.
Right.
Seems to be the selling point.
Yeah.
And Metal Gear Solid, at least on 2 and 3, included some of the bonuses that were in the later ports, the like Subsistence, having Metal Gear 2.
Metal Gear 1 and 2 on there.
In it, things like that.
Yeah.
You have the Zelda GameCube collection, which
2 of them.
There are 2. One of them, I don't think you can get either of them really easily anymore. Can you?
They're both pretty pricey. The first one was just Ocarina of Time with Ocarina of Time Master Quest on one disc, and then the other one was Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and then the 2 NES Zeldas on one disc, which at the time was amazing because Nintendo had never opened up the Nintendo Vault to let me play NES games in 15 years at that point.
Yeah.
But these days, it's
less thrilling.
Yeah, they aren't even great emulation, honestly. The menu was pretty bland. It felt like a store kiosk, but at the time, it was amazing.
Yeah. You have the Activision collections, the remakes. They're remakes and collections of the first 3 Crash and Spyro games. And as much as I hate saying anything good about Activision, because fuck you, Activision. They really are kind of the new gold standard, both in price, in features, even if they were just the original games collected in the same way, it would be worth it. But they are full remasters. Yeah. They fully rebuilt the games.
They feel like
the
modern equivalent of what Mario All-Stars was in '93.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
And then you have the recent Konami collections, which I think really kind of just barely skate into our good category here.
Only because of the patches that have hit after release.
And arcade collections, they're handled by Hamster and M2. They did come out with issues, and even now they're very competent and functional, but they're a little bare bones feeling.
Right, but at least you get to play the U.S. and Japanese versions of the games, which is nice. Yeah, and they even added in some of the European versions for the Contra collection, so that you could play Probotector.
I would say they are selection wise, they're great.
Yeah.
All of them are great selection-wise. You have a lot of options, a lot of titles. Like the Castlevania one, while it doesn't include all the Castlevania games I would have liked to see, you get stuff like Kid Dracula thrown in there, which is sometimes it would be nice to get all of the megaton hits, but sometimes it's also nice to just get some of the weirder side stuff included.
And that's the first time Kid Dracula's ever been released in English, so that was really exciting.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
So this brings us to our much shorter category of collections that did not thrill us.
What?
For various reasons. I know.
Bizarre.
And I want to start by talking about the trash heap that is the Ninja Gaiden trilogy. This was so rare. This was one of the first Super Nintendo games I remember being rare. Mm-hmm. And people being like, oh my God, Ninja Gaiden trilogy, it's all 3 Ninja Gaiden games. I know, those awesome NES games, it's all 3 of them, and they look better.
Yeah.
Oh, they play bad, and they sound bad, and it's bad. They're very bad.
I sold my 4 copies of the NES games in 2003, and that was before it had gotten super crazy expensive. But it was probably like $40 at the time. And
it's a lot more than that.
Oh yeah, it's way more than that now.
And it's so bad. Don't play it. Don't buy it. Don't download it. Leave it alone.
Yeah,
just leave it with the TurboGrafx port of Ninja Gaiden. They can both live in the dumpster where they belong, in the game dumpster.
Yeah, the game dumpster.
Speaking of games that belong in the game dumpster, the Mega Man Anniversary Collection and Mega Man X Collection. But wait a minute, we just praised these.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the GameCube versions?
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck Capcom was thinking. They mapped fire to A and jump to B.
So they swapped the buttons.
Yeah, they swapped the buttons.
Could you remap it?
You could not. And what's worse is not only were the buttons swapped, but it was on a GameCube controller, which for GameCube games is fantastic. I love the GameCube controller.
Right.
But for 8-bit style platforming, the GameCube controller is hot trash.
The D-pad is teeny tiny and sucky.
Yeah.
The analog stick is too big to be accurate with in a 2D space. The buttons are different shape that gives you weird muscle priority that you wouldn't know that you had. It's just weird.
It was not playable. I could not enjoy it. I tried so many times. It's not. No.
Saturn, tell me what's wrong with the Silent Hill HD remaster on PS3 and Xbox 360.
So this was a rushed port job. I feel so bad.
You don't say.
I feel so bad for the guys that did this, because they were given sloppy, incomplete PC ports and told, hey, make these work. And So there was a lot of glitches. There's a lot of glitches. At one point, somebody's mouth texture gets applied to their eyeball, so it looks like they have teeth in their eye.
No, Saturn, you don't understand. It's a spooky game. It's supposed to be spooky.
I get that. In a horror game, sometimes weird things like that will happen. Except for it's in the middle of a really dramatic scene. So instead of like it being this really dramatic, emotional scene, you're just like, what the fuck's up going on with her eyeball there? Why has she got teeth in her eye?
It's don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't look her in the face.
There's just so many issues with the game. They didn't account for the draw distance being different on the more powerful hardware. So the fog just cuts off after a distance and you can just see everything back there. So like there's fog, but you can also look past the fog and everything's crystal clear over there. And when you get to the lake just cuts off after a point. Like you can just pan the camera and it's just like dead zone.
Hey,
like
what's the draw distance on the
dead
360?
zone.
I don't know. Guess.
Right? It's really depressing. Also, Konami didn't want to pay any of the original voice actors, so they re-recorded everything from both games. There was
for as cheap as possible.
Yes. There was some serious outcry from fans, so they did go back and pay the voice actors for Silent Hill 2. And so that you can choose your voices from new or original for Silent Hill 2, but not 3. You only get the new voices for Silent Hill 3. I don't know why. That's how they did it. And also, whoever was remastering this, they arbitrarily decided that some of the sign textures in the game they didn't need to remaster them so much as just remake them, and then they remade them with Comic Sans. And I don't know who thought that was...
I gotta be honest, it sounds very scary. I don't know what you're bitching about.
Yeah, so like if you've never ever played the games, it's a competent port. You can play the games and you'll get what they're going for. But man,
why? Why would you?
Oh man, it's just not a good port. And I'm really disappointed. And they even issued some patches to the PS3 version to fix some of those things, like the texture issues.
Yeah,
not everything, just some of them. But they never issued any of those patches to the 360 version. They later made the 360 version backwards compatible on Xbox One and bumped up its texture resolution, but without any of those patches. Yeah, it's just they really Konami'd the shit out of it, is what I'm saying.
That brings us to Super Mario 3D All-Stars on Switch, which we did a whole episode about, and the consensus is it's extremely bare bones.
Yeah,
it is the minimum amount of effort required to get a passing grade.
It's sufficient.
It is that kid in your class in college that calculated exactly how much work he needed to do to make exactly a passing grade.
Exactly how many days he had to show up to class.
Yeah, it's that, you know. Yeah, you're there. You technically passed, but man, just barely. Also, the Super Mario All-Stars for Wii collection fits here because it's worse. It's literally, unlike the Kirby collection that came out in kind of like, not really the same like series, but you could tell they were kind of trying to do the same thing.
Right.
Even though I think Kirby was later.
It was later.
So Super Mario All-Stars on Wii, which was a much sought after disc for a while.
Oh yeah.
Is literally just the Super Nintendo ROM.
Yeah.
You buy it for like, what was it, $30?
It was $30, yeah. It came with a book.
You put it in your
and
Wii.
A soundtrack.
The book sucked. The soundtrack was half the soundtrack was just 1 second sound effects.
Yep, it really was.
Like it was just like a coin, like ba-ding. There you go. That's a track. Aren't you glad you paid $30?
Yeah.
You're a coin. You could put it on repeat and drive your parents crazy.
I put it in my car and put it on shuffle so that it would occasionally have sound effects in between music. It still wasn't good.
And then you put the game in, and there's no menu or anything. It's just literally the Super Mario All-Stars ROM on a disc.
And it's running through the Virtual Console, too. So if you hit home, it like gives you the option to look at the manual, just like a Super Nintendo Virtual Console game would. The only thing that they changed versus a standard Virtual Console release is they made it compatible with a sideways Wii remote.
Yeah.
Which normally Super Nintendo games couldn't be run that way.
Correct.
But it's a collection of NES games on Super Nintendo, so of course they play that way. It's just so they put so little effort into it.
Well, they took a good collection and somehow made it suck. Dragon Quest 1 and 3, 1 through 3.
Yes.
25th and 1 and 3. They skipped 2. Dragon Quest 1 and 3. Fuck 2. Yeah. That'll be later. Dragon Quest 1 through 3, 25th anniversary collection. Also on Wii.
Yes.
Gee, Saturn, what's wrong with this?
So
is it the same issues?
Kind of. So it's the 3 Famicom ROMs and the 2 Super Famicom ROMs on one Wii disc. There's some bonus features that are probably cool. They're all in Japanese. I have no idea if they're any good or not. But they're very bare bones. The book that came with it is very similar to the Mario All-Stars book. And then the ROMs start up, and I don't even think it's Virtual Console. It's just really bad emulation. Yeah. And the Famicom games especially are so dark, like they're Wii U dark. Mm-hmm. It's just very. I'm glad I didn't pay full price for it. Right. I almost did, but I later got it for much cheaper.
Wait, what price was it? Was it $50?
No, it was $70.
What the fuck? Hi, we're Square Enix. Fuck you. God.
Yeah, it was not cheap. I ended up getting it for about $40 US, and I still feel a little ripped off.
Yeah. Let's talk Gradius 3 and 4 on the PS2.
Yeah. So it's
same
two
issue,
games.
really.
Yeah.
It's just here's your ROMs. Yeah. Have a good day.
Right. And the biggest problem with that isn't just that it gave us 2 arcade ROMs, which, cool, 2 arcade ROMs. Gradius 3 Arcade is notoriously impossible. I'm sure somebody has beaten it. I'm sure somebody listening to this is like, no, I beat that all the time. And cool, I'm very proud of you. But most humans with our normal human reactions can't beat Gradius 3 Arcade, especially with what, if I remember right, was 3 credits total ever.
That's why no one ever bitched about how really genuinely bad the Super Nintendo port was.
Yeah.
Was because it being bad slowed the game down enough that you could play it without getting your shit handed to you.
And also it was made easier than the arcade version. They changed several things to make it easier on the home port. The arcade version is just brutal, and you get so few credits that you can get nowhere. Gradius 4 was slightly better just because it had not been released for home consoles before that, I believe. But even then, it was just an arcade ROM with limited credits. So,
speaking of just a ROM on a disc, let's talk about our final collection. Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Collection on PS2 is just 2 discs.
Yes.
One of them is Hyper Street Fighter 2, and the other one in Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Collection is not Street Fighter 2. It's Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just those 2 games.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And Third Strike, I'm pretty sure, is just a port of the Dreamcast version of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
So in the Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Collection, you get a Street Fighter 2, and then not Street Fighter 2, and then the Street Fighter 2 animated movie.
That's true. That was also on there.
Which, what? Like, who put this together?
Now, granted, Hyper Street Fighter 2 was interesting because it had never been released on home consoles at that point.
True.
And I don't think it's been released on home consoles since then. However, I don't know that it merited being called a collection. So I guess
in the legal sense of the term, it was a collection, Saturn.
They were like,
it was more than one thing.
They were like, oh shit, we called it a collection. Somebody just throw a Third Strike disc in there.
I don't think we need to continue onward. I think it's become pretty clear that while there are some collections that are truly them taking a game and making it bad, like Ninja Gaiden Trilogy or Silent Hill HD Remaster, a lot of times the problem isn't that you've made it bad, it's that you've done nothing to make it worth me buying again.
Right. And
you've done nothing to make it worth me experiencing. You've done nothing to take a game that is inevitably 10 or 20 or 30 years old and make it something I would want to play today, but you're still charging me money for it today. So what's up, game companies?
I mean, it's clear on some compilations they're just trying to milk the fans from the first time. And
correct. I don't like being milked.
They're like, we still want your money, so here it is again. Here's that thing you enjoyed. Buy it again.
Yeah.
Whereas on the better collections, I feel like more often than not, they make it appealing to new customers, people who didn't play it 10, 20, 30 years ago. Like this is what you might have experienced back then, so hopefully you can still find the fun in it. And
I do think game compilations are vital to the continuation of specifically our hobby because there's so much in the retro gaming space that needs to be still preserved and remembered. And a lot of it just even found that one of the easiest ways to keep renewed interest is to keep releasing these collections.
Yeah.
It's good for the community. It's good for people that want to play the games. It's good for collectors. It's good to bolster libraries on systems that maybe don't have a lot of stuff yet, or maybe they've got a dry release season.
Which doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon with all this backwards compatibility and stuff.
Yeah, which is
good. That's great.
If they could find, I guarantee you this generation, we're going to see HD remaster games remastered in 4K versions.
Oh yeah, but hey,
promise you
know who absolutely benefited from compilations on what would otherwise be a completely dead console launch is the Evercade. Because that thing was all compilations.
Yeah.
And the few people I've heard who really enjoy the Evercade say those are great compilations too.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things.
Yeah.
But, I mean, bottom line is compilations are great. They provide you an easy way to catch up on a franchise without having to break open the piggy bank.
Unless it's the Dragon Quest 1 through 3 collection.
Yep. They often include modern features and behind-the-scenes bonuses. I've always been a fan of getting lots and lots of games for not lots and lots of money.
Why?
And I know it's shocking.
That's
it's
weird.
a shocking concept. But listen, what if you got 50 Genesis games for the cost of half of 3 3D Mario games?
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying, value-wise, you're there. You're there.
Right.
Game compilations are great. I don't think that they're going to be going anywhere, but I think, like you were kind of hinting at, it's harder to do and justify compilations like this in the post-HD era.
Right.
So I'm sure we'll still see 8 and 16 and slightly later games being remade and recollected and redone into HD. But everything post-HD, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. And like one of our write-ins said, I am an absolute sucker for them, especially 20 years ago when it was harder to get a lot of these old games. I would buy every fucking collection that came out. Activision collection, fuck it, do it. Atari collection, I'm there. Taito, Tecmo, I don't care. Just give me all these collections. I want all of them. Yeah. And so I was a sucker for it. I'm still kind of a sucker for it, but there are less of those massive like publisher collections than we used to get. Like,
right.
So I will take whatever comes my way these days, but there is a much more varying amount of quality these days. You get the M2s.
I think because you can release them bite-sized, you're seeing a lot of people like just redo this one game just enough to add menus and put it on the Xbox Marketplace or whatever.
Right.
And that's... You get your, for every Sega Ages game on Nintendo Switch, you get another Johnny arcade title.
But there was that SNK Anniversary Collection recently that was very good. So
that was it was their arcade games, or their pre-Neo
Geo collection,
which was a great that one, man. We didn't even talk about that one.
No.
That was a great collection. Well, I mean, really, we're not doing just kind of publisher specific compilations this time, but. That was a great collection. In the Namco, we didn't talk about, I mean, again, out of scope, but we didn't even touch on any of the Namco collections, and there are such great Namco collections. Anyway, that's game compilations. You should play them, and you should also rate and review this podcast on your podcast aggregator of choice. And if you choose to do so, you can support the show at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you get cool things like our show Talking Wizards, and you get to hear me talk like this more often. So if that sounds like something that's appealing to you...
seek help.
Then you can do that. And this show this week was brought to you by the following patrons: Jerry Voz.
Sphincter says what?
Honk if you're horny.
Brian Guido Hassan.
FreeCodeCamp.com or .org. Quincy Larson.
Chris.
This holiday season, consider the gift of mayonnaise. It spreads so nice.
Gross. Adam Williams.
Rob Powers.
Oh no, I thought this was Retronauts.
Me too.
We're gonna start calling you Justin Segway Baker because of how smooth your segues are.
Those are all the patrons that support us, again, at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, and we love each and every one of them equally, might I add. No one fight.
That's right. You're all our favorite child.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, and as always,
let us cling together.